In the Middle East, the people and the Palestinian Authority who are holding the Palestinian card are secular organizations and belief. And by holding this Palestinian card, other organizations, including some religious and other extremist organizations, they are not in a position to use this card. If the situation is going as it is now, with the delay of the implementation of the peace process and this agreement, the only result will be that this card will hold them from the Palestinian Liberation Organization and from the Palestinian Authority. And the only force which can pick it up is the fundamentalist process. And if that will happen, their forces in Egypt will double and triple, in Jordan, in Syria, in Lebanon. And I know very well also that the extremist Israelis, also the fundamentalist Jews, will have more and more power there. And this Middle East will enter in a new era, which I don't believe that any one of us would like to see it. So we are calling, excuse me if I call from here, for everyone who can do something now and in these days to stop Israel from going on in this conversation to do so. Because in this case, he is saving the peace process. He is saving the future of the Middle East. He is saving the future of all our children in the Middle East, Palestinians, Israelis, Arabs, and others. Thank you.
Those of you who have questions or remarks, there are two microphones, one here and one there. Please come up to the microphone, identify yourself and affiliation.
My name is Yusuf Salim. I'm a Palestinian. Assalamu alaikum. Mr. Hussein, you started by saying that the Palestinian and the Israeli started the peace process. They started it as a peace for the whole Middle East, a comprehensive peace, not only between the Palestinian and the Israeli, but a peace in which Jerusalem would be our Jerusalem for the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, for the Palestinians and the Israelis, for the Hebrews and the Arabs, a peace which will bring the Middle East back again onto revival. I know that the situation on the ground in Jerusalem is very difficult. Everyone is trying to enhance their position. Jordan, on one side, the Palestinian with what they can do, as you explained, it's very difficult, and Israel, who have control over Jerusalem. But I want to look one step ahead and ask you a question which looks at the future, and you mentioned the 21st century. So the question looks at the 21st century and the relationships between the peoples and nations in this area. Do you think that a confederation between Israel, Jordan, and a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as the capital of the confederation is a psychologically, economically, and politically sustainable structure upon which to build future relations?
Actually, I can say that in the next century, I believe there will be no place for small states. Small states like the United Kingdom, like France, like Germany, like Italy. And because of that, they built this European unity. So I believe also in the Middle East, there will be no place for such small states like Israel, Palestine, Jordan, Egypt, and other states here. So I believe that what we are going to, if we would like the Middle East to enter the next century in a dignity way, is to have a regional cooperation and sort of unity like Europe. And for sure, maybe this can be one of the steps toward that. If it will be to work as a step toward that, it will work. If not, I believe also it will be even this case, there will tend to be another type of sourcing.
I mentioned politically, economically, and psychologically.
Yes.
I'm sure that for many Israeli and many Palestinians on the extremist sides, it will be very difficult to accept. But if we look at the whole, are enough Palestinian and enough, at least on the side of the Palestinian, enough Palestinians ready to accept this? Would they accept it with an open heart?
Yes, I believe if we reach to such a conclusion, it also will help a certain question about the Palestinians and their homeland and their villages and all of these things. Because I believe if we will go ahead in this program and it will succeed, it will be here like Europe. Now in Europe, no one is asking why this German man is living or working in Paris or in England, and why that Englishman is working in Italy. It is the same will be, I believe, in the future in the Middle East, that open borders, everyone can go everywhere. And so even these feelings of the Palestinians or of the Israelis who is thinking about the great Israel and the Palestinians thinking about Palestine from the river to the Nile, it will not be something very important to reach anywhere, this one or that one. And this is part of the psychological treatment that can be there.
Thank you very much.
Doesn't come up easily. I'm Jim Matlack with the American Friends Service Committee. I thank you for hospitality in your home, and I have visited with Quakers and others and sharing your views then. And I think you may know that a number of religious leaders in this country have tried to raise the profile around the understanding of the issue of Jerusalem with the administration and with their own denominational networks. And I must confess to you total frustration with administration leadership. And on a particular point, I wanted to test your experience of talking with U.S. government officials. In our conversations at very high levels, it is clear that officials of this government will no longer say in public that UN resolutions 242 and 338 apply to those parts of Jerusalem that were taken by force in 1967. And to us, that has seemed the baseline on which any negotiation has to go forward. I wonder, as you talk with representatives of the U.S. government, are they similarly at least uncertain whether that's the baseline? And in reflection of that, do U.S. officials at any point now come to Orient House or in any way conduct conversations, if not business, in a way that suggests the legitimacy of Orient House as a center of Palestinian leadership?
About the position of the American administration, our feeling that with this administration, it is the administration which is use the minimum power in trying to make a sort of effect in the Middle East. And the problem here is that when they are use a big power, so they can move the big weight like Israel and lightweight weight like us to push both of us to go to peace. As example, to go to Mertv. When the United States used this power to push the Israelis under Shamir and pushed us to go to Mertv. The power that the United States now is using is less than that, which is maybe sometimes enough to make life hard for us, but it is not enough to make the same thing for Israel or to push Israel back. So until now I can say that officially the position have not been changed, but the power which is needed to implement this policy is not anymore existing.
My name understand that when the peace talks started, Jerusalem was postponed because it was a sensitive issue. After the year, is it less sensitive now?
No, actually, the way it had been treated, no, it didn't make it less sensitive. It is more sensitive than ever. It is the work the Israelis are doing there is creating more and more sensitivity in Jerusalem and in this area. And I believe this sensitivity, if it will not be, I mean, if the Israelis will not change their policy there, it will affect the whole area and not only us in Jerusalem.
Hello, my name is Robert Bruce, and I'm a freshman at the School of Foreign Service here. I was wondering, you equated security with control in your speech.
Yes.
And the Palestinian Authority in Gaza Strip and Jericho has dragged its feet for a bit, but eventually has cracked down in recent weeks on Islamic militancy. If you were given control of a section of Jerusalem, would you immediately engage in a crackdown on Islamic militancy, which I believe is a security concern of Israel?
In getting the place, wherever will have such authority and full control, we will be able in providing full security as far as the other side is coordinating with us. Now, as example, even with this less authority, with less control, we are trying and making everything to control the situation in Gaza. One of the things that we announced about to collect weapons from there. But in the same time that we are collecting weapons from Gaza, Israel is opening a free market of weapons in the West Bank. Anyone who will go out to the West Bank, you will find that it's easy to buy weapons. From mafia, from the collaborators who are working with Israel, but it is easy to buy these things. So we are collecting weapons from Gaza, and the Israelis are distributing weapons in the West Bank, and so the weapons will come back to Gaza. So even in Jerusalem, if we will be in control, we are in need also a coordination on the other side, not to play games there which can create problems for us inside East Jerusalem. So the control must be here and here. I mean, you control here, there is control on the other side.
My name is Gaston Tawan. I have one question. What assurances can you give us that you are not secretly dealing with the Israelis on a compromise over Jerusalem while you tell us that you're so worried about it and what's happening, what's going on? But I don't see any progress as to these super actions you're taking to protect Jerusalem as Jerusalem.
You are mentioning the secret talks in Oslo.
Yeah, why don't you?
Not to have the experience again.
Why not? I mean, you did it once before.
Yes,
why not do it again?
I believe that the lesson which was from the ones before is enough, not to return to it back.
Going back to the Oslo agreement, may I refer to the countries that helped put the two parties together as matchmaker countries? Do these countries feel any commitment towards the issue? Do they feel any kind of obligation, for example, towards stopping what's going on in Jerusalem now as far as land confiscation, etc.?
You are talking about
The matchmaking countries, that's Oslo, Denmark, Denmark, Sweden, etc. Of course, being the U.S., the sponsor's position being more or less clear.
I believe that yes, they have concern, and in all connection with them, they take this matter in consideration, but I don't believe that they have enough power to do it. I believe the only way which can... The Israelis, I believe that they're doing what they are doing now because at a certain moment they get the idea or the belief that as far as they can continue negotiations or connections with other Arab states, and to reach to agreements with other Arab states without ending the problem with the Palestinians or the Syrians or the Lebanese. Maybe this is pushing them to think about overcome the Palestinians and go ahead and make peace neglecting the Palestinians. I believe that they are wrong, and the result of what they are doing, that all these steps of normalizing with Israel can be stopped. And I believe so, and I believe that the ability and the need for that is there. I mean, some states, they not only want that, but they are in need of that. And so the only way, really, is to let Israel understand that they cannot reach to the fruits of the peace without planting it really on the ground.
Hi, my name is Stephen Sullivan. I'm a recent graduate of the Kennedy School of Government, and I'd like to ask you about the water issue. Water is a scarce resource in Jerusalem and the rest of the region, as I'm sure you know. I was wondering if you could comment on the status of water in the peace process, if there's been any discussion specifically about institutional solution to the water resources of the mountain aquifer.
About the water, and you know that the main quantity of water, or the main مخزون the water is in the West Bank, in the mountains of the West Bank. And in our negotiations with the Israelis, we are concentrating on dealing with this matter and to see what quality each part will have from this water. While the Israelis are trying to push us to think about dealing with using the seawater, decentralization of the seawater, which is with very high cost. We believe in the end that we are in need to use both of these ways, but we prefer first to be sure that our share of the water will be accepted by the Israelis, and then after that we will try to also use seawater. What we have here, that the Israelis are pushing us to go ahead to get the water from the sea and neglect our rights for that. And the negotiation now is going on more deep in the multilateral talks, I believe, about this issue.
Hi, I'm Hillel Keller with the Jerusalem Post. I was wondering if you could clarify something that you touched on before, which is the issue of the confiscation of the guns, excuse me, the weapons that Arafat announced a little while ago, that by May 11th all the guns have to be registered or returned in. And I'm wondering if you can clarify what I thought I heard you say about the connection between the land confiscation issue and how the PA will handle the confiscation of the guns issue, the registering of the guns.
Excuse me, the relation between
the connection between what you see as the problematic Israeli policy on the land confiscation in Jerusalem on the one hand, and on the other hand, how the PA handles the gun and weapon issue.
About the issue of weapons, I believe that it was in the Jerusalem Post, the caricature which was put there after the return back of the 400 deportees from Lebanon to Gaza Strip. And that was before the withdrawal of the Israelis from Gaza Strip. And the picture was, or the caricature was, that those people coming back and in the market, the vegetable market, all the people there were selling each if this is the same Gaza that we left 1 year before. So the problem in Gaza that Israel before the withdrawal from there, they allow this market of weapons, and huge number of weapons start to be there and distributed there in the hand of everyone. From the beginning of the Palestinian Authority there, this idea was how to collect, and we were thinking how to collect these weapons from the people. And it was not easy, because still, and after all these years of Intifada, and before that, there were even some people who were holding these guns, because they are afraid for someone to revenge from them for any kind of even if he was a collaborator, and then he is afraid for his own life, or he is someone who was attacking the collaborators, and then he is afraid now that one of the collaborators will come and revenge from him. So because of that, it was not easy for us to collect this weapons. But the idea was there, the planning was there, especially now in the recent days when things became over the level that we can hold. So we started, we started in collecting weapons. That will take a long time, but as I told you, it is indeed all the support of the people, the community. Israel have this experience, and they know what is the situation in the camps and in the small villages and in this area, which is crowded of people, and to reach out to try to search for weapons. If you will not have the support of the people there, you will not be able to do the job. Now, by Israel going on, confiscating land, using violence against the Palestinians in the West Bank, the continuation of keeping the prisoners in the prison, even those who have been put in the prison before the Oslo Agreement, this policy toward Jerusalem, the closure that they are forcing on Gaza Strip, and not between not as a part to split from the Palestinians in Gaza Strip, but also to force the sea around the Palestinians from the sea and from Egypt, which means that they cut all the access to anywhere and to the external world. All of these things are creating an atmosphere which will not help us with this support of the community. The community will not look to the Palestinian Authority as something that they are supporting, as someone who is bringing them any kind of better future. And without such support, it will be difficult for us to make this job of collecting weapons as we would like to make it.
Our time is up.
This is Mark Bruzonsky. I'm your host for Mideast Realities. We're at Georgetown University in the Intercultural Center, and Faisal Husseini, one of the leading Fatah officials working with Mr. Arafat, has just spoken. The interesting thing about this evening, there is no press air, there is no coverage, there are no Arab journalists, there are very few people who have come, in fact, other than his own entourage, some students from the university. And that's largely because Mr. Husseini's credibility is, to say the least, extremely lacking. He's considered in Palestine a lackey of the Israelis, a lackey of the Americans. He has very little credibility and very little following in Palestine, except for the fact that a significant amount of money is given to him for distribution, and he uses that money then as a way of trying to assert some sort of control and credibility in a society which has largely turned from him and those he represents. The fact that this evening's lecture is so sparsely attended at a major university with no press, no diplomatic personalities, the only video camera, or any camera here, in fact, well, that's not true, a few flashes went off. The only video camera here is that from Mideast Realities. It's important to understand what Mr. Husseini represents and what he doesn't represent. What he doesn't represent is certainly the grassroots of Palestinian society. What he does represent is that class of Palestinians, a client regime, if you will, which the Americans and the Israelis are trying to put in place to control the Palestinian population, much as the Al Saud regime in Saudi Arabia, the Hashemite regime in Jordan, the Egyptian military police regime, much as those client regimes control their societies on behalf not so much of legitimate national self-interest or self-determination, but on behalf of other interests, foreign interests that want to control the energy and resources of the Middle East region. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Mark Bruzonsky, your host.